I didn't direct it. I wrote it. Brian De Palma did a great job directing it.
Scarface? No. At that time, no. I had to go off on my own and do it because I was basing it on the Miami research. But the outlines of the story, the relationship with his sister, and the attitude, but it's quite different. But it was really about, I didn't want to do Italians anymore because too much Italian crime stuff. So we did cocaine. Sidney Lumet was the original director, and he said, let's do it about the Cubans and the cocaine business. And I thought, that's original. I passed on the original, and then I came back and I did it. It had a hard history, that one. Scarface was an expensive movie, and it was hard to make and slow, but it turned out okay because they really sold it more in DVD, more later, after the film came out. It became more and more famous.
He came to me after the failure of my picture I directed called The Hand, and wanted my services back as a writer. And I needed money, and I was in a tough place. I was leaving America, and he said he wanted to do Scarface. I said, I'm not really interested in remakes, you know. It was not until Sidney Lumet came into the picture, I think shortly thereafter, we had another conversation, and he told me that Sidney Lumet was very anxious to do the movie and wanted to do it Cuban, Miami, 1980, 81, the Mariel boat lift to Miami. I started into the research into Miami. I went to Miami extensively, and I got to know both sides. I got to know the law enforcement side, the attorney's office, the gangster elements, through the lawyers, the ex-gangster elements, and then eventually I wanted more, and I plunged on into the Caribbean. I went down to Bimini. On another trip, a separate trip, I went to Ecuador and to Bolivia. My wife was with me because she was sort of like part of my security. A man with a woman that seems a little less sinister or less intrusive than a single man. Naturally, we struck up conversations with a lot of guys with jewelry, kind of playboy types. And I told them I was a screenwriter and I was doing a movie about this stuff, and they were flattered.
Hollywood screenwriter he wants to talk to, he did Midnight Express. They like that, you know. They want to know about the business.
We started talking and went back to their place, drinking, snorting, having a party. And I had mentioned the name of somebody who had helped me in Miami with my research. This person had been a defense attorney. When I mentioned the name, their faces went white. It meant that I may have been in some way connected to the prosecution or to a cop or an enforcement officer, and I was just pretending to be a screenwriter, and I was going underground here. I knew I was in trouble.
And I didn't know what was going to come out of that bathroom, you know, if they thought I was some kind of cop, some kind of informer, because they hated that prosecutor that put one of them away. So a few minutes went by there, and it was pretty hairy. But I think I was paranoid a bit because they came out and they didn't have guns in their hands, but they cut the meeting off, and you know, I went back to my room. They were staying in the same hotel. All night I was tense because I knew they could come and get me. It was their hotel. They owned the island, but it was nerve-wracking. And I got out of there first thing in the morning. The whole point is you say the wrong word sometimes and you're dead. That's the kind of tension I wanted for this movie. I put it into the scene early in the picture where Mr. Pacino, Al goes in to make a pickup, make a trade, and he says, you know, he senses something's off in this meeting, and it becomes that bloodbath with the dismemberment and the chainsaw. Yeah, there was a chainsaw murder at one point there.
It was a scary moment, and it was good for me to get back in touch with that fear that I had felt so often in Vietnam, because that fear is sort of what the essence of Scarface is about. If you can capture those moments of fear, the concept of you don't know what's going to happen next, the violence can come at any time. And I wrote Scarface in Paris, actually. It got me away from that world of cocaine, because I was doing cocaine myself, and it was interfering with my thought process, and my brain cells were being damaged, you know. So I really needed to get away from America, because I knew too many people here were doing coke. It was a time of cocaine in excess. He thought it was too violent and over the top, and it wasn't what he wanted to do. So he left the project, which was disappointing. And obviously I would have loved to have directed. I had directed The Hand and Seizure, but It was a big film with Pacino, and they would not let me direct it. Bregman made some very important and very helpful suggestions. Pacino had some good ideas. Brian De Palma came onto the project and was very supportive, and when we came to shoot the film, he allowed me to take part in the film, be there and study it.
Well, I think there's a lot of sensationalism in that. You know, America likes war. They like to play up the machine guns and all that. That was 1930 Chicago. Time magazine went out of its way to sensationalize it. And I was there. I saw, you know, it wasn't wild that way in the sense of shooting in the streets would happen rarely, but they happened. People would be gunned down. Families were killed. Drug dealers went after families of each other. There was a lot of that kind of internecine warfare. I think in any American city there's a lot of shootings every week. But definitely there was a new element. It was the Colombian element. And the Marielitos came in, some of them, Cubans who were a gangster element out of Cuba. And it got bloody when the Colombians were not playing around, so there was a lot of cutthroats. Well, yeah. It is, because he is a hero because he's free in a way. He's a free man. That's where people liked it. White people did not like that movie when it came out. I was disappointed at first. There was the blacks and the Latinos in the inner cities that went, and they loved it. And also white people who were doing some drugs, they went. That was the kind of audience we had. We were a bad boy movie. So the movie didn't do as well as they'd hoped because it cost a lot of money. It went 3 months over budget. It was a very tedious shoot. I was there the whole time. But over time, the film garnered a reputation and made money. In fact, wherever I go in the world, I mean, I pretty much, people, you wrote Scarface, you know, I got into Salvador. I got into the fascist party that way. So
really?
I could do some research. Yeah, they thought I had muy cojones. Well, he's not a hypocrite, you see. He tells the truth, as he says, even when I lie. He's a man who's free unto himself, and I think that's what worked, because the people around him are so corrupt. The cops are corrupt in Miami. The system, the bureaucracy that pressed down on. By the way, I mean, let's be honest. Let's talk about the drug war. I mean, this is an invention that's come about that's a disaster. A bureaucracy of enormous billions of dollars are being wasted on fighting drugs with this super DEA and now the ICE and all that, whatever they want. We always create wars. Pacino's a hero because, in a way, he sees it all. He sees it's all bullshit, and he calls it out. And I think a lot of people just picked up on it. They knew the war on drugs was a lie.